All right, let's roll out to Willie McGinest's crib. We have Willie over the phone. Willie, of course, the great former Patriot, great three-time Super Bowl champion, now an analyst for the NFL Network. And let's start here. There are reports that the Patriots may have a lingering interest in Cam Newton, which I think begs the obvious question: could Cam Newton and Bill Belichick actually coexist? Could that duo work together? Who better to answer that question than Willie McGinest? Willie, do you think Cam Newton and Bill Belichick, could that duo work? Marcellus.
Can you guys hear me?
Marcellus, I think we're going to...
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, yeah, we got you, Willie.
There we go, man. So I would say this. I would say Bill Belichick has been the ultimate professional when it comes to juggling egos and different characters and different personalities. Corey Dillon, a lot of people question if he could coexist with, Bill Belichick when he came from Cincinnati. Randy Moss, Gronk is a huge personality. And I would say that when you look at Cam Newton and the issues he's had, it's never been off the field. It's never really been on the field. It's been when he hasn't performed at a certain level and he's frustrated or upset with himself, or he didn't win football games. And it was usually at the press conference, at the podium. Now, we all know that the quarterback position is at the podium and speaks to the media every single day. And the one thing that I would always kind of give advice to Cam too is, look, you're polarizing. You're a superstar. You're an MVP. You led your team to the Super Bowl. You have to handle adversity the same way you handle winning football games. It's the toughest thing for an athlete to do. And he understands that. As he's matured, nobody likes losing. Marcellus, you played the game. I played the game. We hate losing. But when you address the media, you have to do it in a professional manner, and you have to address things the same way you do as if you lost the game, as you won the game. You don't have to like it, but you got to do it. And I think Bill Belichick has handled so many different personalities that they would coexist. It would be a great working relationship. And I'm just telling you guys right now, there is a lot of respect from the Patriots organization when it comes to Cam Newton, because they have played several times, and Cam Newton has showed out and played at a high level every single time they've played. And if I haven't checked the numbers, but I think Cam Newton may have a winning record against the Patriots.
Look, I think it definitely can work. You talk about Bill Belichick and who he really is. He's pliable. And I'm not talking about his persona when he goes to the podium and mumbles his responses just to keep everything close to the vest. I'm talking about what Willie's talking about, actually having personalities on his team with the latitude of a Gronkowski or Edelman on one side, and then you get guys who are doing things exactly by the book, like a Teddy Bruschi or so. He has that latitude, and you can see it even in his play calling when he had to have spot duty opportunities at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett goes in there. They're running bootlegs. They're not running the same exact plays for a Tom Brady. When he needs a special defense to go out there and shut down a high, potent offense, he'll put a two-man front out there, even in the playoffs. So Bill Belichick has shown people, if they really look, that he is wide open and could apply his system based on what talent he has. I think they could definitely coexist.
Willie, I thought what you gave was one of the best answers I've ever had to a question. You spelled out all the issues, and it's about whether Cam can be consistent enough at the podium in presenting the face of the franchise. A quarterback is different than a tight end, a wide receiver, a linebacker, anything else. And that partnership between Belichick and Tom Brady consistently hitting the same notes and putting on the same face for the Patriots organization, could Cam do that? And here's the reason why I think there's a chance Cam could do it, and you may be right. Bill Belichick is that unique coach that almost has that stern father effect on every player that joins the organization. I think Cam Newton would get into pleasing Bill Belichick and proving that, yeah, I'm the kind of professional athlete who could actually work with a Bill Belichick. It would go a long way in reshaping his image off the field for a lot of fans and a lot of Cam's critics. And so I just think Belichick's unique relationship with players and how people want to please him, and Randy Moss, I think, benefited from that, and on and off the field. I think that would be a similar situation with Cam Newton, and perhaps he could consistently step to that podium, put on a professional face, and hit the same tone as Bill Belichick and what Tom Brady did for 19 years. Willie?
And Jason, that's a great point, man. The one thing you have to understand about the Patriots organization, it's always team before individualism. And there's a lot of guys that want to push their brand and they want to go outside the box and promote themselves and do different things. That's fine. The organization has nothing to do with that, or they won't be upset at that. As long as you're performing at a certain level, as long as you're consistent with the other 353 players on the team as far as being accountable, doing the work you're supposed to do, putting in the work when nobody's looking, doing everything you can to win football games. At the quarterback position in New England, there is no Tuesday off. There's no days off. You come in on Tuesdays. You scheme with Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick about the opponent going into the next week, because the system and the game changes every single week. You don't run the same system. It's all catered to who you're playing against. And I think for polarizing players that's used to being the superstars and used to being the man, sometimes they can't handle when everybody's treated the same. Everybody goes up on the big screen in the Monday meeting if you didn't perform well and gets criticized. But what that does is it makes you not only respect the coaches, but it makes your teammates, everybody respect each other equally, because nobody's above the team. Although we know who the superstars are in the locker room. We know that. We know Tom Brady. We know Edelman. We know Hightower. We know Jamie. We know who the guys are, McCourty. We know who the superstars are, Slater. We know who the guys are. But when everybody's treated the same, it makes the player on the practice squad work just as hard as the number one pick overall. And all I'm saying is Cam has a unique ability. If he can refine, and if he's healthy at throwing the football, we know he had the shoulder surgery. So that's a concern. Nobody's seen him. Nobody knows where he's at with that. We know he had the Liz Frank with the foot. That's one of his most dangerous weapons, getting out of the pocket, moving the pocket, being a runner. So you add another running back like a Lamar Jackson to the running game, and you add that extra ability for Cam in a Patriot system with Josh McDaniel and Bill Belichick scheming it up. That's the only thing I think holding up anything for Cam Newton. People want to know if he's 100% healthy, and going into certain systems, you got to abide by certain rules. But the players that have done that have came in, have won a lot of football games, and most of them have won championships. So at the end of the day, it's worth it.
Yeah, look, Cam Newton, let's talk about his level of humility. And I don't think a lot of people even think he has one, but I certainly can attest to that, knowing Cam Newton. And just everyone watching him from his career, how he rose from the ashes after his own self-inflicted issues at Florida and going to a junior college and picking himself up. Like, Cam has not been humbled by this game necessarily, by another man or opponents, but his body has failed him. And a guy who was injury-prone, who was robbed of his complete success and at his heights, I know that personally, how that feels. It's one thing to look outside and you're like, you know what, I can conquer all these things. But it's another thing to have to look inside and realize it is fickle in terms of every single opportunity. I think he's in a different place in terms of that humility, willing to accept that I still am the ultimate competitor. I still think I have great attributes, but I need to go out there and respect that not everything is guaranteed. It would be a perfect marriage. Bill Belichick, attention to detail, having that personality to be able to have the bandwidth to deal with a Cam Newton, but Cam Newton coming in with a different mindset, realizing how fickle this game can be.
All right, Cam Newton 2-0 versus New England Patriots. Willie was right. He has performed well. All right, let's move on to the other big-name free agent out on the market, a former #1 draft pick, Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney hasn't cut a deal with the Seattle Seahawks, set a pretty high price, expectations for how much he was going to get paid, perhaps has scared some teams off. I'm someone that thinks Jadeveon Clowney's name is bigger than his game. Willie, do you think Jadeveon Clowney's name is bigger than his game?
I do think being the #1 pick, the expectations were high. It's high for any player, especially a defensive player. Mario Williams had to wear the same jacket coming out as the #1 player. Chase Young wasn't the #1 player. He was the #2 player picked in this year's draft, but he's going to wear the same title. And expectations are high. Has he performed as a #1 pick with the production on a consistent basis, week in, week out, year to year, through 5 years? No, absolutely not. We've seen it in spurts. We've seen Jadeveon Clowney go out and dominate games. We've seen Jadeveon Clowney go out and just dismantle tight ends and tackles and just, annihilate the quarterbacks and just be a disruptive force. But the problem is you have not seen it on a consistent basis. If you're talking about just being an athlete, going out there, making loose plays, great plays, swimming over somebody, getting in the backfield, getting a tackle for loss, that's great. But I can put on the tape and show you at the point of attack in the playoffs against the Indianapolis Colts, when they ran direct runs at him, there was no discipline. There was none of that. There was no disruptors. They pretty much marched him off the football and did whatever they wanted him to do. I think that's the things the true football minds are watching. They're looking at the tape. They're having conversations with personnel people and head coaches that he's played for. Is he disciplined? What's his work ethic like? Is he a locker room leader? If we're going to pay a guy $100 million, we want to make sure he's not only affecting the play, but he's also affecting the locker room and other players around him. Is he that guy? Is he that guy that's going to work his ass off when nobody's there in the offseason, during the season, and do more than what's asked of him? How is he in the meeting rooms? All those questions are going to be asked if you're talking about paying a player, regardless of what position it is, top-tier dollars. And the one thing I don't like nowadays game is you don't really get paid on production. You get paid because that's the market value. Back when we played Marcellus, you had to go out and earn a new contract. You had to earn your signing bonus. You had to earn to be in the top 5 at your position, making a certain amount of money based on your production, based on your numbers, based on time played, based on how you was in the locker room. All those things factored in. Now, what the market value is, that's what dictates what players are getting paid. So there should be a red flag going up if you look at all the defensive players that was paid in the offseason, and a lot of people said Jadeveon Clowney was the #1 free agent on the defensive side, and he still doesn't have a contract. Red flags should go up, and I think people are concerned with some of the things I mentioned and going forward and giving them that franchise-type deal.
Yeah, I'm with Jason. Obviously, his name is bigger than his game, and I like Jadeveon. And I think what happens is it's not just that he was the former #1 overall pick, because you can justify that pick with numbers. We play defensive end, defensive line. If you get double-digit sacks, everyone's off your back. It's just that simple. So Jadeveon could absolve himself of all these issues in terms of reputation if he just goes out there and gets double-digit sacks at least once in his career, which he has not. And then you talk about how in our day you had to earn it. I always tell this story about Jadeveon, who I really like, who I think has tremendous ability, but like you said, you put on the tape, there are moments you're like, really? And then you look at the total culmination of the numbers, and you're like, that's not elite talent numbers. And he has elite talent. When I had 6 sacks, I remember going upstairs to my owner's office, getting reprimanded almost. Hey, Marcellus, you do this again, you're going to have to be looking for work elsewhere. Meanwhile, Jadeveon Clowney gets 6 sacks, and he's in the Pro Bowl getting love. there's a difference there. And it's not about draft position. It's about going out there, lighting the film up, and making those numbers matter. And so far, he hasn't done that consistently.
Willie, thank you so much. Man, you might make the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame as well. You put in some work today.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.